Ana Carolina Lopez Enriquez was born in February 1996 in Mexico, under less than favorable conditions. Her biological mother had been diagnosed with the human immunodeficiency virus HIV, while her biological father was unemployed and homeless. Given these circumstances, it was unlikely that the little girl would have a stable home and a family to care for her. However, fate intervened when Efren Lopez Tarango entered her life. Born in 1924 in Chihuahua, Mexico, Efren was the son of Silvestre Lopez Moreno and Adela Tarango. Though details about his early life are scarce, it is known that he married Maria Almira Acosta on August 23, 1948, in Chihuahua, with whom he had 6 children. Eventually, they divorced. After the separation, Efren, who had a stable financial position, found love again. In 1997, at the age of 65, he married Albertina Enriquez Ortegon, who was 45 years old. Both desired to start a family, but due to their respective ages, pregnancy was not an option. Driven by their strong desire to welcome a child into their lives, they decided to pursue adoption, which led them to the little girl, who was 1 year old at the time. This girl had been placed in the adoption system by a sick mother and a father without a job or a stable home. The adoption process was conducted at the Integral Family Development Center, commonly referred to as DIF, according to various media reports. With their dream realized, Efren and Albertina legally welcomed Ana Carolina Lopez Enriquez into their family, ensuring she received all the rights afforded to a daughter. They embraced her in their Chihuahua home, and from the moment they first laid eyes on her, they resolved to provide her with all the love and good living conditions that her biological parents had been unable to offer. Among the many measures they took to ensure their daughter's well-being was hiring a nanny, who stepped in during times when Efren and Albertina were otherwise occupied. This nanny, known only as Margarita, became a crucial part of Ana Carolina's life. Under Margarita's care, Ana Carolina was considered a sweet and well-mannered child. The bond between them was affectionate, and there was a level of trust that allowed the little girl to confide in her nanny about matters she did not share with her parents, as Margarita would later recount. For Efren, Ana Carolina was his 7th child, and he made no distinction between her and his older biological children. However, it appeared that Ana Carolina struggled to feel integrated within her new family, as was revealed later. She began to harbor a certain resentment toward her step-siblings, whom she perceived as self-serving individuals merely seeking their parents' financial support. It remains unknown whether Efren's older children shared the same sentiment regarding their adoptive sister. The Lopez Enriquez couple owned several bars and liquor stores in the city, along with properties in Texas and Chihuahua, enabling them to indulge their children's whims. Ana Carolina was particularly spoiled, receiving not only affection but also numerous luxuries. Jesus Alberto, one of Efren's grandchildren, recalled that Ana Carolina was cherished by her parents and received everything she desired. During a time when technology was costly, the young girl had access to both a desktop computer and a laptop, along with an iPad, a cell phone, fashionable clothing, and a television in her room. The Lopez Enriquez couple never denied her anything. In her teenage years, Ana Carolina took great pride in her appearance, often flaunting perfectly manicured nails that were clearly the result of professional salon care. Her hair, typically worn loose, was long, wavy, and maintained with expensive products. Standing at less than 1.50 meters tall, she preferred comfortable skirts and avoided clothing that drew excessive attention. Reports from various media outlets suggest that, with her particular personality and appearance, the young girl navigated her high school life while studying in her 4th semester. In terms of her academic performance, everyone agreed that she was a diligent student, well regarded by both classmates and teachers. She rarely missed classes and was committed to her studies. Although Ana Carolina was aware of her adoption, her behavior toward her parents appeared unremarkable. While she sometimes spoke with her mother on the phone, many interpreted her occasional teenage rebelliousness as typical for her age. Those who had the opportunity to spend time with her characterized her as quiet, reserved, intelligent, and somewhat unsociable, though she maintained good relationships with her small circle of friends. This introverted nature led her to withdraw emotionally and suppress her feelings. It's essential to note that her sociability was likely hindered by experiences of harassment and bullying during her school years. Her classmates, aware of her adoptive parents' age, cruelly nicknamed her Anita the orphan, a label that caused her significant embarrassment. Perhaps she either could not articulate her discomfort to Efren and Albertina, or they did not recognize the importance of addressing the issue. As a result, she developed a growing annoyance and resentment towards her older adoptive parents, which manifested in seemingly trivial confessions to her friends. She would express thoughts such as wanting to scare her parents for not protecting her from the teasing and bullying. However, her close friends believed that these statements were likely meant as a light-hearted jest, a common behavior among teenagers navigating conflicts with their parents. Those two individuals, who despite not sharing her blood, chose to include her in their lives, showered her with lavish gifts, extravagant dinners, trips and every kind of indulgence. She lived a life of luxury, and according to some of Efren's grandchildren, they never denied her anything. Yet, to quell her growing resentment, Anna Carolina expressed that while they provided her with material possessions, they lacked the emotional connection she craved. Unbeknownst to anyone, the seed of discontent had taken root in Anna Carolina. Margarita, her nanny until her adolescence, described her as a sweet and ordinary girl, one who confided her dreams of attending university. However, beneath that seemingly harmless exterior lay a sometimes unbearable temper, which she often directed toward her parents in the form of screams and conflicts. How she transformed into a bitter young woman remains somewhat unclear, but her behavior became increasingly concerning. She even exhibited cruelty toward her dog. This alarming shift raised red flags for her parents, yet they dismissed the idea that she might require psychological intervention to address her anger. Instead, they preferred a non-violent corrective approach, hoping to broaden her horizons by encouraging her to learn a new language. To this end, Efren and Albertina contemplated sending her to a boarding school in the United States to complete her high school education. Before implementing this plan, however, they granted her one final trip to Venice. What Efren and Albertina were unaware of was that nearly a year prior to this decision, Anna Carolina had begun devising a scheme to eliminate them from her life. The teenager felt trapped in what she described as a glass cage and longed for freedom from her parents' constraints. Aware that her short stature and light weight would not enable her to confront them directly, Anna Carolina sought an ally in her boyfriend, with whom she had been dating for a few months. He was Jose Alberto Grajeda Batista, an 18-year-old high school student in his 5th semester. It was not difficult to persuade him to join the plan, especially since Anna Carolina's parents completely disapproved of their relationship and forbade their daughter from seeing him. Another accomplice, Alexis Gomez, joined the scheme, becoming the necessary collaborator to execute the crime. If all went as planned, Anna Carolina would inherit a substantial fortune from her parents, enabling her to marry Jose Alberto, buy a house and live together in freedom and happiness, almost a fairy tale. If it weren't for the macabre plot to eliminate two people who had only ever shown her affection. The meticulously planned crime was set for Friday, May 3, 2013. Anna Carolina chose this date deliberately, knowing that her babysitter, Margarita, would be free that day and that her father would be bowling all afternoon until dinner. This timing allowed her to surprise her mother alone before attacking her father. Once Efren left, Anna Carolina hid her accomplices in the house and went into the kitchen. She called out to Albertina, pretending to need help with some ingredients for a recipe she claimed to be unable to find. In that moment, Moro, hiding behind a piece of furniture, seized the opportunity to wrap a wire around Albertina's neck and squeezed until he completely obstructed her air passage. Tragically, Albertina lost her life while looking her adopted daughter in the face, and not once did Anna Carolina command him to stop the assault. Afterward, Moro injected her with 3 syringes containing chlorine and rat poison in her chest and jugular vein. Once the body was concealed, Anna Carolina waited patiently for her father to return home. As soon as Efren walked through the door, the teenager executed the same ruse she had used on her mother. She called him to the kitchen under the pretense of needing help to cut some fruit. There, he was ambushed by Jose Alberto, who attempted to suffocate him as well. However, the 18-year-old was uncertain whether he had succeeded in killing Efren or merely rendered him unconscious. They secured Efren's neck to a table leg to ensure that if he awoke, he would be unable to move. Just to be safe, they injected poison into his jugular vein. Once the horrific acts were committed, Anna Carolina, her boyfriend, and Alexis cleaned their hands with chlorine bleach, stole money from the house, and went to a hot dog stand for dinner. When they returned to the Lopez Enriquez home, they continued drinking beers and chatting animatedly, seemingly unfazed by their crime. The trio spent the night in the house, and the following morning, they decided to clean up the crime scene to erase any evidence linking them to the murders. They wrapped the bodies in plastic bags and loaded them into a white Fiat van belonging to the victims. The young men drove towards the Lombardo-Toledo peripheral in Chihuahua, stopping along the way to buy 13 litres of gasoline, which they transferred into 3 plastic containers. After finding a secluded area near the Sapo Verde water park, they discarded the bodies on the ground and sprinkled them with gasoline. When they attempted to burn the remains, they realized they had no means to ignite the flames, so they returned to a store to purchase matches. Upon their return, Jose Alberto finally set fire to the bodies. As they later recounted, they were unprepared for how quickly the fire spread, resembling a rudimentary funeral pyre. Once the bodies were burned, the criminal trio headed north on the highway to Ciudad Juarez, then took the road leading to Namiquipa, where they disposed of the vehicle. Afterward, they returned to the city. Anna Carolina and Jose Alberto later went to a restaurant for lunch, then visited a telemarketing store, presumably looking for new phones. At Plaza Galeria's shopping mall, the young woman tried on engagement rings, and her boyfriend bought a watch. Hours later, they attended a party where Jose Alberto worked as a waiter. Despite his busy schedule, Anna Carolina enjoyed herself throughout the night, reveling while the perpetrators attempted to clean up their criminal tracks and fabricate alibis. On May 4, 2013, agents from the Chihuahua Ministerial Police made a shocking discovery in a location within the neighborhood of Mexico. In Mexico, the charred bodies of 2 individuals, yet to be identified, were discovered. Their condition was peculiar, prompting the agents to believe they were at the scene of a horrific crime. Consequently, they requested the immediate involvement of David Ochoa, a criminal analyst from the Chihuahua prosecutor's office. He was the expert the state government relied on whenever they needed a homicide profile. That day, David was watching television with his children when he received the urgent call instructing him to report to the scene of the discovery. It took him no more than 20 minutes to arrive at the site, located in a wasteland near the infamous El Sapo Verde water park. This area had become a favored spot for criminals to dispose of evidence, linking them to gruesome acts. In police terminology, it was known as a location for the disposal of corpses. Upon his arrival, David observed that the burned bodies lay beside a concrete wall which had been blackened by flames, indicating the use of a potent fuel rather than just any flammable substance. The wear on the victims' teeth suggested they were older individuals. Furthermore, the positioning of their hands and feet tied behind their backs made it evident that the victims had been unable to defend themselves against their assailants. Analyzing their facial expressions, it was apparent they had not anticipated the attack. David noted that their eyes showed no signs of surprise or terror, indicating they had been in a trusting environment when their lives were taken. David shared that despite having visited approximately 250 crime scenes during his 17 years of service, profiling mentally disturbed individuals, passionate criminals, and hitmen with a reputation for precision, he found this scene profoundly unsettling. In an interview, he explained that his technique involved contemplating crime scenes as canvases that reveal the perpetrator's mindset. According to him, the details act as a guide for experts, indicating whether the attacker was aroused during the crime, whether they took pleasure in inflicting pain, or if resentment was a motivating factor, among other insights. However, the scene where Efren and Albertina were discovered felt markedly different. David conveyed to the media that, at the risk of sounding poetic, he believed the individual responsible for the deaths of these people possessed no soul. The individual responsible for taking the lives of these victims seemed devoid of a soul. The autopsy conducted on the bodies revealed a hip prosthesis, allowing investigators to ascertain that one of the victims was a woman, likely around 60 years old. The other body presented a puzzling anomaly. It belonged to a man in his 90s, making this crime remarkably atypical on a national scale. At that time, less than 0.09% of homicides involved individuals over 80 years of age. As experts worked to gather data on the deceased, the calendar advanced to May 5, 2013. On this day, Anna Carolina decided to report her parents' presumed disappearance. She first reached out to her aunt, who advised her to file a formal complaint with the authorities. Subsequently, Albertina's relatives contacted Anna Carolina, expressing their concern after not hearing from her parents since Friday, and urged her to contact the police. With a heavy heart, Anna Carolina went to the police station to report the unexplained absence of Efren and Albertina. At just 17 years old, she was utterly dismayed as she informed the authorities that she had lost track of her parents. While explaining her concern, the young girl recounted that everything had been normal in their home until the fateful Saturday, the 4th, when they disappeared. Feeling desperate, she sought the assistance of law enforcement, emphasizing the vulnerability of her elderly parents. As the investigation unfolded, forensic results confirmed the identities of the deceased as Efren and Albertina. Law enforcement agents dedicated themselves to uncovering the circumstances surrounding the alleged abduction and subsequent death of this seemingly innocuous couple, who appeared to have no enemies. In pursuit of leads, investigators interviewed potential witnesses, including the daughter of the Lopez Enriquez family. Until this moment, Anna Carolina's carefully crafted narrative had proceeded smoothly, winning the sympathy of the authorities. They viewed her as a minor with a tragic backstory, someone who seemed to have been abandoned by the world. However, when it was time for her boyfriend, Jose Alberto, to testify, the web of deception began to unravel. The authorities confronted him with inconsistencies in his statements, which proved sufficient to dismantle his facade and expose the truth behind the chilling events. Under the pressure of the interrogation, it took mere minutes for the young man to confess to the crime. He revealed that he, along with his girlfriend Anna Carolina and a friend named Mauro, had taken the lives of the couple as part of a revenge plot orchestrated by Anna Carolina. He explained that the motive stemmed from a refusal by her parents to lend him their car a month prior, as well as their denial of financial assistance for his impending marriage. After confessing to the crime, Jose Alberto requested psychological help. He provided a detailed account of the events, including Anna Carolina's pivotal role. In the heat of an argument with her parents, Anna Carolina expressed her frustration, stating that she could no longer tolerate them. Responding to her distress, Jose Alberto asked if she wanted him to confront her parents, to which she eagerly agreed. From that moment, a sinister plan was set in motion. The seemingly distraught orphan underwent a startling transformation when subjected to further questioning by the prosecutor's office. Displaying no signs of remorse, she defiantly stated that she did not regret her actions. Her only concern was the prospect of imprisonment, preventing her from marrying Jose Alberto. The loss of her parents meant little to her. She claimed she could no longer stand them. One of the interrogating officers, taken aback by her chilling response, posed a hypothetical question about her feelings in that moment. Her blunt reply was that she would feel happy. She maintained that even if she faced arrest, the act of taking her parents' lives made her feel liberated. Anna Carolina's cold demeanor persisted even during her hearing before the judge, a detail that intrigued the prosecutor's office staff. Her lack of remorse shocked seasoned officials accustomed to dealing with criminals. It wasn't just Anna Carolina's composure that unsettled them. Mauro, who apparently had been the first to suggest the idea of killing the girl's parents, exhibited a similarly chilling psychological profile in his statements. In the declarations provided by Jose Alberto, he was the only one who sought psychological help from the outset. He also revealed that Mauro had harbored a disturbing desire to remove and cook one of his mother's breasts, a plan he abandoned due to the anticipated bloodshed. Jose Alberto believed that after killing Anna Carolina's parents, Mauro wished to continue committing such heinous acts. The Chihuahua prosecutor's office aimed to substantiate the homicide charge, seeking to include all applicable aggravating circumstances under the law, such as premeditation, malice aforethought, advantage, and treachery. According to the penal code at that time, a conviction for this crime could result in a life sentence. However, because Anna Carolina was a minor, she was protected by the special law for adolescent offenders, which stipulated that the maximum penalty she could face was 15 years in prison, even if found guilty of homicide with all aggravating factors. In contrast, her alleged accomplices, Jose Alberto and Mauro, both of legal age at the time of the crimes, risked spending the rest of their lives behind bars. The judicial system in Chihuahua, as reported by various media outlets in 2013, was characterized by a peculiar situation. It existed in a space between catharsis and atonement. This description highlighted the uncomfortable reality faced by the families of both victims and perpetrators, who were required to sit together and hear the crime's narrative recounted live by a representative of the public prosecutor's office. During one such hearing involving the adult suspects, the chilling testimonies of Jose Alberto and Mauro suggested that at least one of the young men might suffer from a mental pathology, particularly after Mauro's previous attempt to take a life. Mauro had recommended to Jose Alberto that they asphyxiate Efren using electric cords, explaining that squeezing Efren's neck for approximately 60 seconds would suffice to incapacitate him. As they waited for the blood to dry to facilitate cleanup, they decided to go out for hot dogs and later used the money stolen from the Enriquez couple to purchase gifts. Upon returning to the crime scene, Mauro detailed how they used aerosol hairspray to burn away the spilled blood from the wooden surfaces. Using hairspray and a lighter, Mauro created a flamethrower effect on a smaller scale. He then gathered all the materials they had used, which bore the fingerprints of all three, and placed them into a bag. They discarded this bag in the family vehicle they intended to use for transporting the bodies. Mauro poured gasoline over the bodies, but when he attempted to ignite them, he realized they had no lighter. Consequently, they went to Ana Carolina's boyfriend's grandmother's store to purchase matches. The two accused youths claimed it was their first and last crime, insisting that their sole motivation for killing Albertina and Efren was money. However, in front of the court, Mauro confessed details that Jose Alberto had already shared with authorities, including his unsettling desire to remove one of his mother's breasts. The chilling accounts brought several attendees in the Fifth Criminal Courtroom to tears, some due to the harrowing recounting of their relatives' homicides, while others were overwhelmed by the disbelief that their children were involved in such a plot to end innocent lives. Journalistic reviews highlighted the emotional turmoil experienced by Mauro's mother, who occasionally glanced at her son, seemingly questioning whether this was truly the boy she had raised. In contrast to her accomplices, Ana Carolina's arraignment hearing, being a minor, was closed to the public. She was granted an abbreviated trial that included discussions regarding her mental health. Previously, the minor underwent a psychological evaluation that resulted in a revealing report. Experts concluded that, despite her youth, she exhibited the highest level of psychopathology on the FBI's violent crime scale. She scored 9 points on the FBI's violent crime scale, displaying signs of sexual sadism, a lack of empathy, and remorse, as well as a gradual estrangement from her parents. David Ochoa, the criminal analyst from the Chihuahua prosecutor's office handling the case, remarked during the trial that anyone capable of taking the lives of Efren and Albertina had no soul. He further stated that it was exceedingly rare to find a minor who exhibited no remorse after committing a double homicide. It was particularly shocking that she could eliminate the very parents who had raised her and provided her with a life of luxury. The prosecution built its case around Ana Carolina's presumed high IQ, arguing that she must have understood that she lacked the physical build necessary to execute her plan, given her short stature and slim frame. Despite her adoptive parents being elderly, she was at a physical disadvantage. Mental health specialists confirmed this, explaining that she sought out what psychologists define as a proxy or surrogate, someone with the requisite physical strength to carry out her sinister plans. Having confessed to the charges of aggravated homicide and robbery against her adoptive parents, the Mexican justice system sentenced her to 14 years and 6 months in prison, nearly the maximum penalty for a minor committing such a crime. Once the sentence was pronounced, she was transferred to a specialized center for social reintegration. Ana Carolina was judged according to the laws in effect at the time and received a penalty that many considered lenient. In contrast, her accomplices Jose Alberto and Mauro each received sentences of 37 years in prison, as they were of legal age when they committed the double homicide. It is important to provide several details regarding how the charges against the three individuals were delineated. The charges against each individual were clearly defined and explained to the media following the conclusion of the trials. According to the law, at various stages of the plot that Mauro and Ana Carolina devised, they were identified as the intellectual authors of the crime that resulted in the murder of the Lopez Enriquez couple. While Ana Carolina considered the possibility of harming her parents, Mauro dismissed it, suggesting and planning the method for committing the crimes. Although she did not refuse, she refined the plan as the case unfolded. Mauro was deemed the material perpetrator, responsible for taking Albertina's life, while Jose Alberto did the same with Efren. Ana Carolina served as an accomplice to both, facilitating the execution of the criminal act. She played a crucial role in preparing the ideal circumstances for the crime, providing information to her boyfriend and his friend about how to attack her parents, and selecting a Friday when her nanny would be absent. She also called her parents to the kitchen, where Jose Alberto and Mauro awaited them to carry out their deadly intentions. Without her assistance, the crime would not have been possible. Once the sentences were announced, the families of the victims expressed their disbelief and sorrow over the tragic fate of two individuals who had done nothing but love their daughter. They were particularly alarmed by Ana Carolina's apparent lack of remorse, which shattered many hearts. Jesus Alberto, one of Efren's grandchildren, recalled that Ana Carolina had not shown the slightest sign of repentance. He noted that despite having received unconditional love from her parents and everything she desired, she never seemed to appreciate them. He described how, despite typical teenage brattishness, Ana Carolina appeared affectionate towards her parents, often choosing dishes for Efren when they dined out. Jesus also mentioned that Efren had a deep affection for her, often referring to her as his little girl. He added that his grandfather, at 89, was a man who had never experienced illness, and many believed he would live to be 110 due to his remarkable strength. Nito expressed that, as the victim's family, they intended to petition the state Congress to amend the law, aiming to lower the age of criminal responsibility for minors to 16 years. In his view, after the horrific acts Ana Carolina committed, the possibility of her being released at a young age was profoundly unjust, both for him and for his family. While he acknowledged that the law could not retroactively apply criminal liability in her case, he deemed it essential to prevent similar incidents in the future. As the family grappled with their grief, several of Ana Carolina's acquaintances were left in shock. 4 of her close friends, with whom she had shared her life since childhood, were particularly affected. Their identities were withheld for privacy. They ultimately decided to sever ties, choosing not to speak to or visit her again. Among those most devastated by the tragedy was Margarita, Ana Carolina's nanny, who was profoundly impacted by the news of the double murder. In the days following the incident, she appeared with deep dark circles under her eyes, looking so frail that many speculated she might require emergency medical attention. It was later revealed that until Ana Carolina reached her teenage years, Margarita had served as her confidante, having known her since infancy and having taken her to numerous children's parties. In a statement to the media, Margarita expressed that Ana Carolina's actions were inexplicable, stating she could not comprehend how such a transformation could occur. No one in her circle could provide a valid explanation for the drastic shift that turned Ana Carolina from a seemingly good girl into a criminal with a meticulously planned narrative. After 4 months at the Specialized Social Reintegration Center, comments regarding Ana Carolina were published in the newspaper Zocalo, further capturing public interest and concern. The Zocalo newspaper reported that Ana Carolina was a model inmate who adhered to all the rules set by the detention center authorities and had no conflicts with anyone in the facility. In fact, she had joined the judo team, practicing the sport regularly and with great discipline. Additionally, she resumed her high school studies, expressing hopes of eventually pursuing a university degree while incarcerated. At that time, the only visitors she had received were 2 aunts from her deceased biological mother's side. Neither the Lopez Enriquez family nor her schoolmates or friends made any attempts to reach out to her. Meanwhile, Ana Carolina's case was presented under a pseudonym in a special report titled Adolescente Vulnerabilidad y Violencia by the Mexican National Human Rights Commission Comisión Nacional de Derechos Humanos de Mexico, CNDH. This report aimed to illustrate the context of disintegration and violence affecting youth. In her account to the CNDH, Anna Carolina described the alleged conditions of abuse and instability she faced, which, according to her, contributed to the crimes for which she was serving a 14-year sentence. The report detailed that Anna Carolina had been orphaned before her first birthday, following the death of her biological mother from AIDS shortly after childbirth. At the time, her biological father struggled with addiction and was homeless. These unfortunate circumstances ultimately led to her adoption by a wealthy couple. However, Anna Carolina claimed that despite her family's affluence, it did not translate to positive experiences for her. She alleged that she endured beatings, sexual abuse, and humiliation at the hands of her adoptive father, whom she referred to as her stepfather. She stated that her stepmother remained silent out of fear, and although she longed for love, her family addressed everything with money. Anna Carolina insisted that she had legitimate and compelling reasons for her actions, yet this claim could not be corroborated by anyone close to her. This statement could not be corroborated by anyone close to the family or by the police. However, Anna Carolina expressed remorse for having orchestrated the double homicide in which her partner at the time and a friend of his participated. Striving to present the best possible image of herself, she recounted that once they were discovered, she fell into a state of shock that prevented her from processing reality or reacting to the situation she faced. According to her, this was why she received harsh words from the judge, who noted that she had never seen her cry. Anna Carolina revealed that since she was 10 years old, she harbored a great deal of repressed anger toward her parents due to the humiliations she endured. She stated that their age difference hindered a positive relationship, leading her to trust only her boyfriend, whom she asked for help to commit the crime. After being incarcerated, she mentioned that she had rekindled her relationship with her biological father, who visited her weekly and offered support. She also reflected on her actions, expressing grief for her adoptive parents. Amid the controversy generated by the horrific double homicide, another issue arose regarding the early release of Anna Carolina, the mastermind of the crime. She was released from prison 5 years after being sentenced to 14 years and 6 months. Her release occurred under a veil of secrecy within the prosecutor's office and the judiciary, fully aware that it would spark significant controversy due to the public's shock over the evident coldness of the young woman and the contentious decision to set her free. In March 2018, the decision to release Anna Carolina stemmed from the reform of the national law of the integral system of criminal justice for adolescent offenders. This reform established a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison for juvenile offenders in the country. Consequently, based on the new legislation, her sentence was reduced, leading to her release. Since then, there have been no further updates about the young woman. The victim's relatives have filed a civil lawsuit to strip Anna Carolina of her inheritance, as well as the life insurance and trusts established by her adoptive parents, which amounted to several million pesos. The judicial decision had to be meticulously refined based on the fact that the first person to pass away was Albertina. Her husband was the heir to her estate, as their adopted daughter was a minor. Thus, the family fortune was left in the hands of Efren, who passed away just hours later. The judges decided that the assets would go to the biological children from Efren's first marriage. They reiterated that Anna Carolina had ample opportunity to think twice or 3 times about whether she truly wanted to continue with her heinous actions, and she chose to do so. Dear audience, this concludes our investigation. What do you think about today's case? We would love to read your comments, as your opinions on these cases are very important to us. Please remember to always express them with the utmost respect, both for the victim and for the other viewers, as well as for us. Before you leave, please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to share this video if you think someone you know might be interested. See you in the next criminal investigation. Goodbye.